Welcome to episode 112. How about the Huskies? As always, I'm your host, Connor. Joined by Matt and Andrew, and for the first time in nearly 700 days, probably a little over 700 days, the UConn Huskies lost a home game. The Huskies fell to Creighton at Gamble 68 to 63. The final score yesterday was the game. We're recording this the day after on Sunday. A game that we all honestly were probably a little too confident in, at least here on this podcast. I feel like we all thought this was a game, even without Liam McNeely, the Huskies would pull out. But just I mean, it starts and ends with Jemiah Neal. I forget which one of you said him as a guy that could go off. I think it was Andrew. He scored a career high 24 points. He had 17 in the first half. Huskies had no answer for him. They fought back, but just a late push by the Blue Jays. A couple controversial things at the end I'm sure we'll get to, but I just want to open it up. What's your guys' overall thoughts about this game? It's not the end of the world, of course, but you'd like to see the team win at home.
I mean, in a loss at home, I feel like we did do a lot of the right things here. I feel like the game plan, was kind of executed almost perfectly. Um, I said it before we started, but nobody really expected that out of Jemiah Neal, and I think that was kind of the game plan going in is let the other guys beat you. Kalkbrenner 6 and 10, 5 of 11. I mean, it was a very solid game, but I mean, we know he's capable of way more, along with Ashworth, only 12 and 9. Once again, he's capable of way more. I feel like we kind of did a good job at taking them out of the game. It's just, when you give up 17 first half points to Jemiah Neal, things are not gonna go well for you. They also had Trout off the bench, came in and gave him some solid minutes, but that was really it. I mean, the bench, they did a good job defensively, offensively, a lot to be desired. Overall, I mean, you expect to win here, and I feel like in a game like this is a game that UConn has won in the past. This is a game that they usually pull out, so. Um, just not getting this one, it kind of shows, this team isn't the team of the past few years. You just want to be able to rebound from this on Tuesday.
Well, in a game that needed to be a statement 10, 15 point win at home in front of a packed crowd against a team that was struggling this year, it was not. And the first thing I want to say is that obviously everybody knows about the Diarra, should have been a foul, blah, blah, blah. If you blame the refs for every loss in sports, then please stop watching because refs are not reasons why teams lose games. I mean, that wouldn't have mattered if we weren't in that position. If we played better so that we weren't in that position to begin with, that would have never happened. It would have never been a story. And second of all, it's just, I think we just played soft again. I mean, I think that's kind of what it's coming down to is we're just playing soft. You get hit by a punch and you just kind of crawl back in your corner instead of going back and fighting back. They fought back earlier in the game. They were down six and then they were up by two. And then they just went down, and the killer was Ashworth's threes. I mean, those were the silencers. But I think all in all, um, it's just not a good game in general. And I feel like these are starting to happen way more often than not. The more like the not enjoyable first halves, even in the wins, I feel like the first halves that we've played in have not been good at all.
Yeah, we're so used to these UConn teams the past few years just jumping out to a big lead and usually maintaining it throughout the whole game. Obviously, this is the outlier. Liam McNeely is still out. We don't know when he'll be back. It should be soon. I mean, there's what, 12 days, 11 days left in the month of January. Hurley said hopefully by the end of January. So, I mean, ideally, we only have like what, two more games without him, maybe three. So, I mean, that's obviously a big plus, but I feel like still the guys are running out there. We should be able to win a game like this. I mean, Jalen Stewart had 14 points. I talked about him a lot with his consistency. Hurley mentioned it too that he needs him to be more consistent. He had 14. DR 15, 6, and 7. He did his part. Just the others didn't really step up. Solo ball 15 with three threes. I mean, you expect that from him at this point. Not surprised there. Alex Caravan 8 points on 3 of 12 shooting. A bunch of his missed shots were like drives into the free throw line area, just floaters over Kalkbrenner that didn't go in. That was basically our game plan inside. We weren't attacking Kalkbrenner because I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a good idea to attack a guy who averages like what three blocks a game or something like that. But just putting up poor floaters and then not getting the offensive rebound after, just one and done like that. We had numerous possessions like that that really could have dictated how this game went. But I don't know. That's not the reason they lost. I feel like you said, Andrew, I agree. That foul that they probably should have been a shooting foul on DR. The ref blew the whistle before the contact was even made because he knew that he was going to give a foul to give there. But I don't know. Like you said, you can't put yourself in that position. You could easily have been up by 8 points at that point, but instead you were down by three.
This is a game where I feel like you kind of needed McNeely. That 1-2 punch with Caravan at the start of the year was super effective. And if Caravan, wasn't at his best yet, at least he had McNeely there to kind of pick up the slack. And they fed off each other a lot. And you don't see that same connection with Stewart. I mean, Stewart's a fantastic player, but Caravan and McNeely are just like carbon copies of each other. So, missing out on McNeely in this game was a big deal. I said last game that if we did have McNeely, that would have been blowout city. But I mean, if we win this game, I really believe if we have McNeely, we need him back pretty soon. Having games like this at a Caravan without, McNeely and Hassan Diarra being your top scorer, since you can't pull it out, things have to end up, given somewhere.
Yeah, well, this easy January that everybody was talking about has completely turned into a nightmare because we have now lost two games and can't afford really to lose another one. We only can afford to lose two more games, honestly, in Big East play, which is at Marquette and at St. John's. But I mean, at this point, it's hard to even know what to say with this team because I feel like it's a wild card. This team is just constantly a wild card, as opposed to last year. You knew when the team was going to just bury a game. They had that feeling that they were going to just get it going and just make the game over in the first half. This team's just a wild card. They could be like Providence and put 27 points up in the first half, come out and score 60, or put up 27 points in the first half and put up 30 the next half and not score a lot at all. So I still don't understand this team. I think it's just kind of a wild card still.
I feel like that wild card scenario starts with the guys on the bench. I mean, Stewart, I'm including in that group. He had 14, but like I said, zero before that. I think what, four before that, something like that. He doesn't consistently put up these big numbers. Aiden Mahaney had 4 points. We've seen him get in double figures in Big East play. He only had four. He's had games where he hasn't barely played in Big East play. Jaden Ross didn't even take a shot. He's had games like last game against Georgetown. What do you have? 5, 6 points. You need more consistency out of guys on the bench, especially Terrace Reed Jr. Terrace in 16 minutes in this one guarding Ryan Kalkbrenner, minus 17. Samson Johnson plus 12. That's pretty much the game right there, whether you want to believe it or not. Terrace is a guy who's won us some games this year. He basically won us that Xavier game, him and Solo Ball. Terrace had 20 and I think 13 in that overtime win. But I mean, this is two straight games where he's really done nothing. And I feel like it's because, I mean, it's weird to say after what I just said, he was minus 17, but he's a guy who plays better when he plays more. I'm just pulling up his stats from Big East play, and it's just kind of nitpicky, I feel like. But looking at his game log, in games where he plays 18 or more minutes in Big East play, he's averaging double figures. In games where he plays 16 or less, he's averaging three. Obviously, that's not that large of a line to cross, but I feel like we thought we'd be seeing more of a split with Sampson and Terrace, and Terrace hasn't reached 20 minutes in a game since Sampson's really been fully healthy after that concussion. I feel like maybe more of a balance is needed there, but at the same time, he was minus 17, so maybe he doesn't. But yeah, I feel like all this inconsistency stuff really starts with the bench. I feel like guys like Solo are pretty consistent. Diarra is getting consistent. You almost expect double figures out of him at this point. And what's his name? Alex Caravan. What's his name? Of course, I know who Alex Caravan is. I feel like last year or the year before, he scores 8 points in a game. We don't really bat an eye, but he's expected to step up and score 15 plus points for this team. So that's why another reason why you don't win this game because you don't have your captain and your leader playing at his best. He didn't knock down a three-pointer. He did roll his ankle too. Luckily, it seems like he's okay. But yeah, if all those factors, you're not going to win a game.
I kind of want to talk about Diarra because I'm not gonna say that he's played bad because he's been a huge part of this team's not even close to how good we are if we don't have him. But he just makes some of the dumbest passes that I've ever seen, and I feel like he's just not thinking when he plays this game. I don't know if he's just focusing on how to run the play or if he's not using logic or what it is, but he has just made some of the most terrible passes that I've ever seen in this game. I mean, I feel like you guys know which ones I'm talking about, just the ones that aren't even picked off, the ones that are right at the guys. There is never any excuse for a pass to end up directly in the hands of a defender like that. I mean, there's just not. And I would really like to see him start to kind of slow things down and not be at the mindset of I have to make every play for us to win. Slow things down, keep the ball on the perimeter, and just get open. I feel like that's what I want to see him do more so than just dribble around and try to make passes through tiny areas that probably won't happen.
And he was involved in a couple of not weird plays. The last one was certainly weird, but you guys remember the end of the first half. Isaac Trout was fouled by Jalen Stewart taking a three. He makes all three free throws, so Creighton was up four, I think, at that point. They're up by seven. Then Diarra, Creighton has a couple fouls to give, so they foul him. But of course, he hits the half court shot after, but they fouled him before. So that could have been like a 6 point swing. Instead, it went 3 points in Creighton's favor. So just silly stuff like that. But I agree, Diarra for all of his he's a very stellar playmaker. I mean, 7 assists in this one. He's been one of the best playmakers in the country since he entered the starting lineup, really all season. But the turnovers, I feel like you don't have a bona fide second guy to distribute the ball. So even if he's struggling with some turnovers, he's still going to be the guy in there. Like what he played 37 minutes or so. In this one, he's still going to be that guy, even if he's turning the ball over. We haven't really seen Noel take that jump. He didn't play much in this one. Mahaney, we all know him as a ball handler, not his strong suit. And after that, I feel like we need a guy like McNeely to maybe step it up. He was having some great games passing the ball before he got injured. That Butler game, he had I forget how many assists, maybe 6 or 7. So getting him back will also help Diarra out because he'll take the stress off him a bit. But I feel like the common denominator here is that if we had Liam McNeely, we'd be in a much better spot. And in a perfect world, Liam McNeely's on this team playing healthy in March. So really all that matters for UConn. Obviously, you want to win regular season games, but and I hate to say this, but losing games to Creighton and Villanova kind of helps the Big East more than it hurts UConn. I hate to say that because I want UConn to win every game, but I feel like if Villanova or Creighton are on the bubble come Selection Sunday, and they have a win against UConn, and other teams don't have a win against us, I feel like that could honestly get them into the tournament. But yeah, all in all, I feel like the Huskies will be just fine. I don't want to see people panicking like they have, like the season's over. It's not. They're gonna go out and play Butler, which we'll talk about next. But yeah, you guys got any last thoughts about this Creighton game? Moving on now, officially to that Butler game. The Bulldogs did pick up their first Big East win. I believe they're 1-6 now going into this one. But I want to start this out with a question to you guys, and this isn't my opinion. I just want to kind of generate the conversation. Why, as a UConn fan, after seeing how we performed and how our toughness was in that Creighton game, why should I expect us to beat Butler on Tuesday, even though they're 1-6?
This team is still incredibly talented. I mean, you lose a game to Creighton, you lose a game to Nova. They have some fantastic players. They have guys who can beat you and did beat us. This game against Creighton, their big three accounted for more than half of their points, majority of their points. Um, we got beat by their big three, and then you look back at the Villanova game. Eric Dixon is gonna be Eric Dixon, and he's gonna give you a hard time. I just don't see that star power here with this Butler team. I just think that. Um, even though we have had some shaky losses, these are still some fantastic schools and some fantastic players that we're losing to. You still have incredible talent, you still have incredible depth. You just need to figure out, who goes where, what goes where, and day by day you're getting closer to Liam McNeely returning to this lineup. This is a must-win game, I'd say, against Butler. I think this is a game that we will win. I'm not too stressed about it, but if you find a way to lose this game, then I think some serious doubts start to set in.
Yeah, I mean, Matt pretty much said it perfectly, but I'll make one more point. This is basically the Maryland Eastern Shore game after Maui. We need a bounce back because that Creighton loss, I'm not going to say it was a bad loss, but it's definitely one you don't want to lose. Um, but we need this one more than anything, and I feel like a loss would do terrible things for our shot at making the tournament. I feel like a loss to Butler at home, who's 1-6 in the conference, would almost shatter our hopes of being in the tournament. I don't know if that's an overreaction or not. I think that's what would end up happening. But this is a must win, especially after the way we just played. No matter what.
I agree with you there. I feel like I'm seeing all these bracketologies, which I mean, it's January. Don't know what's going to happen yet. But I'm seeing us in like the sixth. I've even seen us in a 7 or 8 seed at this point, which obviously I feel like we're number 14 in the AP poll. I feel like it's a little drastic to have us as a 6, 7, or 8 seed. I feel like I don't know where we'd be right now. But yeah, I agree. Losing to Butler, it certainly would hurt, especially in the long run. You got to remember that Butler game. This is our first time playing an opponent for a second time in Big East play this season. We only won by 4, 78-74. That's with Liam McNeely, 17, 5, and 7. So take that away. Obviously, it's at home now as opposed to being in Indy. But I don't know. I feel like this is a sneaky trap game, which is very weird for me to say with a 1-6 team. But I feel like, I mean, they just won a game. They're trending up, even if it's not by much. I feel like we're trending down with the way we performed in that Creighton game. Could an upset happen? I don't know. I feel like it won't end up happening, but it's just something to think about.
If you look back at this game, this was a game, at least on Butler's side, dominated by Andre Screen. We were talking a lot about John Mill Telfort going into it, and he wasn't really there. Shot 3 of 12, had 7 points. If you play this game like you played the last game, and Andre Screen is their, main point of offense and defense, he had 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 blocks. He had made 9 free throws on 9 attempts. I think you're going to be just fine. You have enough big man depth to kind of contain that. You just need to be able to contain Telfort once again. On our side of things, Liam McNeely had a great game. He had 17 points, 5 of 13 from the field, but he's not here this time. So you need some other guys to step up. You had a little bit of bench production, 7 from Mahaney, 7 from Terrace, and 4 from Ross. But now with a little bit of an emergence here from Jalen Stewart, hopefully he can keep the great play rolling. But um, you need some guys to show up. This is going to be a top heavy game for us, I think. I think this is a game where 2 or 3 guys will combine for 60 points. But I mean, you need some guys to show up and be productive.
Yeah, in that other game, Stewart only played what 6, 7 minutes off the bench and didn't score. Solo Ball only scored 4 points, a season low for him. So he's a guy who's gonna have to step it up. I mean, we need his 15. If he doesn't get 15 in this one, and the bench plays as inconsistent as it's been, I feel like we could be in some trouble. But I know you did mention Telfort there, Matt, which could easily be a key to this game. But what do you guys have as a key to UConn winning this game, whether it's on the defensive end or offensively? What's your one key?
Well, it has to be rebounding. Like Matt talked about screen. Even I still don't think our rebounding has looked good in general in 2025. And I feel like that has to be the key because someone like Screen gets going and gets those offensive boards, he's gonna end this game pretty early. And I feel like we obviously we need the crowd juice. We need to do everything right to win this game. But I just think the rebound. I would love to just see the rebounding be good or even decent for once, not just getting beat to every loose ball, watching balls go out of bounds. Like I want to see some effort. Honestly, that's what I want to see.
And I want to see, the continued stoppage of Jamil Telfort. He's a guy who could also win the game in a heartbeat. He's still their leading scorer, so you need to be able to kind of contain him while also containing the rest of their so-called big three. They do have Pierre Brooks, they do have Patrick McCaffrey. You need to be able to maintain these guys and not let them take over the game. If you can make sure that it's a spread out kind of attack like it was last time with Andre Screen and Pat McCaffrey kind of leading the way, you'll have a lot of success here. You just can't let a single player take over the game like you did with Jemiah.
Yeah, Screen 17 and 10 was a significant outlier in his Butler career. I don't think he'll do that again. My key is to just be more aggressive towards the rim. Obviously, Kalkbrenner, an exception. It's okay to maybe put up some floaters. You don't want to go into him because he'll just send your shot into the 10th row. Screen kind of was doing some of that in our game last time, but I feel like he's a guy who will he replicate that performance? I don't know. I feel like be aggressive, draw some fouls. Screen, I think he had 4 fouls in that one last time. So they are prone to fouling. Creighton's a team they mentioned on the broadcast, Kalkbrenner didn't commit a foul in like 5 of 6 Big East games going into that one, which is a little absurd for a shot blocker. But that's besides the point. So go into guys like Screen and whoever they have down low. I feel like winning this game could potentially be at the free throw line. Give me guys like Ball, even Stewart, be aggressive. Caravan's always usually at least a little bit aggressive. Diarra is a guy who gets downhill as well. So I feel like that'll be the key. And now we'll move on to players to watch, our last segment here of the show for the Huskies. Who you guys have as your player to watch?
I'm gonna roll with AK here. A bit of a crap game last time around. I feel like this is a pretty obvious pick. You need him to show up if you want to win this game. I feel like as time goes on without McNeely here, we kind of get weaker and weaker, and you need him to put up a great performance here. I'd like to see 25 points out of him. It's been a little bit since we've seen a kind of dominant scoring performance from him, and I'm ready for him to just kind of break back out to show us that, he's a first round NBA draft pick and the best player on this team.
Honestly, I can't even pick a player to watch. We just need everybody. We need everybody to show up and show that it means something to them and not lose this game. Because if we do, then it'll be terrible for everything in general. And so we just need everybody to show up, do their job, win this game. Don't care if it's by 1 or 100, just win.
I'm gonna go with Terrace. Like I was kind of bashing him how he was minus 17 against Creighton. Last time he was on the XL Center floor for a game was that Xavier game, 20 and 13. I don't think he'll replicate that because that was without Samson Johnson. But I feel like you could certainly see him maybe get back into double figures. I want to see that 20-minute split. Just see how they do it. If Samson plays much better in his 20 as opposed to Terrace's 20, then maybe go back to Samson playing 25 and Terrace 15 or something like that. But I feel like Terrace has more offensive potential than Sampson, who has improved, don't get me wrong. But I feel like this is a game where Terrace could maybe sneak into double figures. All right, you guys got anything else here for episode 112? I think that'll do it then. Next time you hear from us, we'll once again, between the games, we'll play Xavier next weekend. Xavier, a team that just went to Fiserv Forum and beat Marquette. So they are the real deal. We know that. We played them in overtime earlier this year. So that's not going to be a fun game. Maybe Liam will be back for that, and who knows? We'll get an update on him, I assume, tomorrow. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in this time. Stay tuned for the next one.